go on to the PowerPoint. So this is 6 simple steps to connect with your confidence. And I want to take a moment just to explain the wording of this, because when we think about confidence, often we're used to building. We often hear about building confidence, which for a long time I really thought this was the case. But actually I sort of reflected when I was creating this webinar, and I thought, for me at least, it's more about connecting, because I really believe that we've all got this confidence inside of us. If you look at children, if you look at babies, they don't have problems with confidence. They are pure love. They are pure confidence. They are pure consciousness. And it's only until later on in life, when life happens to us, that we tend to become disconnected to our confidence. So this is just my way of thinking about it. And yeah, maybe spend some time considering whether that's true for you. And the metaphor that I always think of is, the sun is always out there. We may wake up one morning and just see clouds, just see a really grey, drizzly sky. And we may say to ourselves, we may observe, the sun's not there. Well, it is. The sun's always there. The sun's way off there, millions of light years away in the universe. Just because we can't see it, just because we're not connected with it, doesn't mean that it's not there. And this is what I think confidence is about as well. It's always within us. It's just a case of tapping into it or connecting with it. Okay, so just to sort of signpost you all about what structure is going to be, I'm going to start off sharing my sort of confidence story, my relationship with story. I don't want that to go on forever. I've been quite strict with myself. I don't want this to become my life story and to go into all the nitty-gritty. But I think it's important to sort of share my relationship with confidence, so that you better understand, why I'm sort of sharing these 6 steps. And those 6 steps, I've got to say, they are sort of inspired through my relationship, my journey with confidence, but they also come from the dozens of books that I've read, the personal development journey that I've been on. They come from various different sources, and they're going to be a nice mixture of ideas and also some exercises as well. So you're going to have lots of things that you can take away from listening for the next 60 minutes. So after my story, I am indeed going to share with you those 6 steps. And at the end, you're going to receive a special invitation. So, my story, my confidence story. So, got a picture here. If you grew up in England in the 90s, you had a haircut like this. We call this a bowl cut. So here I am, probably 5 or 6 years old. I can see Ben seeing that. Yeah, this is it. This was me. I reckon 5, 6 years old in my parents' garden, and I was often described as like a cheeky chappy. So, no problems at all with confidence. I'd go up to strangers, I'd speak with them. When I was in primary school, I really loved poetry. And actually, it was a bit geeky, but I used to write poems for my teachers, and I'd run into school early so I could share them. And often, it would be the case that they said, "Oh, would you like to read these poems in assembly?" So there I was, ginger, bowl haircut, 4'2", standing there, reading these poems in front of 300 people, and it didn't faze me. It didn't faze me at all. So I'd say that my confidence was always healthy, and this sort of carried on into secondary school. So secondary school, I'd say that I had like a good sort of big friendship group. I was one of these students who could have hold a good conversation with anyone, regardless of their age, whether they were a staff member of the school or a student, younger or older. I discovered music. If you know me, you'll know that I play piano, I play guitar, and I discovered music in secondary school, so I performed a lot as well. I was playing piano in front of people. So it was all looking pretty good. And then I sort of left school, and 18 years old, and I kept getting asked this question: what are you doing with your life? What are you doing once you leave school? And I was looking at my friends, and a lot of people sort of knew what they wanted to do. Oh, I want to be an engineer, or I'm joining the army, or I'm going to go do statistics at university. And I was there like, I'd quite like to travel at some point. Might like to do the RAF. I like TV. I sort of had these interests, but nothing was set in stone. I really didn't know what it is I wanted to do. So this did sort of knock my confidence, because I began to question, who I was. What am I going to do with my life? So I sort of went from cheeky chappy to unconfident and unhappy. So here's a picture of me here. I'd say about 20 years old at a party. And the thing was, I didn't talk. So I was experiencing this, not crisis, but I was experiencing this, challenging time. I began to sort of lose confidence in myself. So I used to mask it, as a lot of us do, with partying. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, I'd be at various parties. And if you met me on one of these nights, you'd say, yeah, Will's a confident guy, he's doing well, nice guy. But it was all a mask. It was all bullshit, if I'm being completely honest with you. Inside, felt very, very, very unconfident, very insecure. I'd say that my self-esteem sort of dipped as my confidence did. But you'd never know. I was very outgoing, very happy-go-lucky, still a bit of a cheeky chappy, but inside it was acting. And I'd say this, this sort of went on until sort of early 20s, and it sort of spilled out as we try and internalize our problems. Maybe you'll relate to this. It spills out onto other areas of our life. So I wasn't talking about my own confidence, but this started to manifest in different ways. So I started to get anxiety. I started to have sort of panic attacks, which for me, in my ignorance, I thought it was just nervous people. It was just shy people who got panic attacks. I remember in primary school, there was a girl who used to come into school crying, and I'd never pictured myself as someone who would experience anxiety, because I'd always had this healthy level of confidence. But nevertheless, I did. This sort of spilled out. This internalization spilled out, and I, had anxiety. I got into very bad debt because I was going out and living this party boy lifestyle. I was earning good money, but I was just spending way more than it was coming in. So this cycle sort of developed, and I was in a bit of a sticky situation, let's say. Anyway, so I decided to sort of ask for some help. And I asked to a friend of mine, Mark, who, very confident guy. He said, read this book. And I sort of opened up, and I sort of didn't tell him the full story. I said, I'd like to meet someone. I went through a messy breakup when I was sort of 17, and heartbroken as that happens when you're younger. But that was another knock to my confidence. So I sort of opened the door a little bit, and I said, I'd really like to meet someone. What can you suggest? Because he was a bit of a ladies' man, still is. And he said, read the game. So I bought this book, and I'd say this is the first personal development book that I really read. It's a book about picking up women, and I read it and I loved it. And it wasn't so much about the picking up women, but what I really, I didn't. It was more about the body language. It was more about the communication, because I loved people. I've always loved people. When I left school, I knew that the work I'd be doing would be helping people in some way, but I didn't know what it was. So when I read this, it was a real breath of fresh air, because I learned about body language. I learned about communication, how to sort of appear confident, how to make yourself feel more confident. So I bought this book, I read it, and I went on to read the second book, which is called How to Play the Game. And this book was a complete game changer. I read this book, and it had a really simple but sort of life-changing idea for me. And the idea was daily challenges. So day one of this book, at the end, I didn't read it till the end, but at the end, I imagine it has, approaching women, learning how to pick them up. I didn't get there, but I did the first few days, and actually that was enough for me to sort of ricochet off and go my own way. But day one, I had to make eye contact with a stranger, which for many of us seems not a big deal. But when you're sort of stuck in this, this sort of dark place where you don't feel confident, where your self-esteem isn't at a good level, eye contact with a stranger is pretty scary. But nevertheless, I went off to work that day, and walking to work, a commuter guy walked past me, made some eye contact, and I went to bed that night feeling proud of myself. I'd taken this step, I'd done something different to get out of my comfort zone. Day two was interesting. I had to make small talk, so talk about anything to anyone. So it was really open, but still there's this voice, this niggling voice that said, "Oh, gotta be careful, gotta be careful. You're not the sort of person who speaks to strangers sober. Maybe have a drink before you do it." But nevertheless, I went out to the supermarket, and I was in the queue, and there's this sweet old lady in front of me, and we started talking, and I spoke about the weather, because in England that's what you talk about. And we had a really nice exchange for a couple of minutes, and I felt really good. I felt really good that I'd pushed myself. I'd stretched that comfort zone that I'd lived in for so long sober. And I went off, and I've stuck with this idea of doing challenges, doing things that scare me, and taking action regardless. So I went on to do loads of challenges, some quite weird ones, lying down in public on my back like this as people go past, just spending 30 seconds there. And it's terrifying. It's literally the most terrifying thing I did, because your voice is going, it conditions you, what's acceptable in society and what's not. And lying down, they think I was on acid or something. But I was lying there and nothing happened. People walked past me. They were so wrapped up in their own head. They didn't care. But I stood up and I felt amazing. So this idea of challenges really stuck with me. And the biggest challenge was going to New Zealand. I booked a one-way flight to New Zealand with 1,000 New Zealand dollars in my pocket, which was about £600 at the time. And this is where I met Ben, who's kindly joined us today. And that was incredible. I was climbing mountains. Every day was a challenge because, but it was good because I put myself in that situation. I was purposely moving towards and taking steps to connecting with that person that I used to be, that I knew I could be, which was still living inside of me. So that's my story. I'll leave it there. There's many other stories, but that's the very brief edited version of my relationship with confidence. And I'll say that it's grown. I'm still challenging myself every single day. So let's dive into step number one. So step number one is really about awareness. So step one I've put here is creating a confidence template. So there's a few questions, and on the next slide, there's going to be more details about an exercise that I'm going to propose to you. It's quite childlike, but it's fun. I think life should be fun. But before we look at that, here's a couple of questions just for you to consider now. So whose level of confidence would you like? Because we're all at different stages, and we all aspire to, have a level of confidence or connect with a level of confidence that someone has. So for me, Ellen, I don't know if you know Ellen, this TV presenter in the US, I think she's just hilarious. I just think she's so authentic and confident, but not at a level where it's arrogance. I think this is a fear that I had of, if I'm too confident, I'll come across as arrogance. But when I look at her, I just think she's hilarious. She's just so authentic. So for me, she's like a real template. Another question: how would you know if you had confidence? So maybe you're watching this and you describe yourself as someone who doesn't have confidence. How would you know if you did? And the third question, I might have to move this bar here so you can, there you are. So the third question is, that's better, that's at the bottom now. Cool. Third question, imagine yourself at your most confident. What would be different? Okay, so here is the exercise that I think is a really fun but very powerful way of getting clear on what this confidence template, what this ideal person would look like. So don't judge me on my drawing skills, please. I'm not an artist, although it's pretty impressive. I was tempted to get like an orange highlighter and give it a head, but I thought that's just silly, isn't it? So I drew this, and this is me, believe it or not. So I wrote down the other day, okay, how would I feel if I'm at my most confident? And my first answer was, well, confidence, duh. But actually, there's different emotions involved behind this feeling of confidence. How else would I be feeling? And I said, fearless, energetic, focused, powerful, adaptable. So as you create your own confidence template, and I will be sending you a copy of this slide as well as the replay, of course, as well. Ask yourself that question: how would you feel at your most confident? Because maybe some of my answers resonate with you, but you'll certainly have some other answers as well. So maybe confidence is this feeling of peace. It could be this feeling of being at peace. And then look at it from different angles. So how would you look? So I've put here, is smartly dressed, fresh haircut, stood tall, open body language, smiley, friendly. This is just my interpretation. This is just my model. How would you sound? Maybe you can't see this bit here. Oops. Let me see if I can move that. That's better. So how would you sound at your most confident? So I've got here sure. I would sound sure. I would sound calm, and I'd have a varied tone. So I speak at different paces, different volume. And also, how would you think? So this is sort of touching on mindset, which is that's a whole different webinar. But this is getting you to think about how would you think if you were at your most confident. So what would that voice inside your head say? And also do. What would you do to feel, oh, that's a spelling mistake. What would you do to feel most confident? Okay, maybe it's not. What would you do to feel most confident? So what are those activities that help to connect you with that feeling of confidence? So for example, I put here challenging tasks. So now you know my story, you know that, setting challenges, completing daily challenges was a really big part of connecting with my confidence for me. But also stuff like exercise and meditating. These are other things that when I do them, I do feel most connected with this feeling. Okay, let me move this back. So this is step one. You will receive a copy of this, and I really suggest just taking some time out, as long as you need, as much, the longer the better actually, just to sit down, draw a simple stick man, a simple stick woman, and go through these 5 different angles to get clear on what this means for you, because that word confidence means something totally different for someone else. It's not a term that we can point at and say this is it. We all bring our own beliefs, and we all bring our own opinions of what it means. So that is step number 1. Step number 2 is understand. Oh, I'll turn my phone off. Sorry about that. Step 2 is understand the 3 zones. So this is a coaching model that I'm going to introduce to you now, and it's 3 zones that we live in. Before I do that, I want to explain why we've got a picture of a frog. So in the 19th century, there was a study carried out, quite cruel, but they had a basin of water and they had a live frog, and the scientists wanted to see how it would react in water. So first time round, they boiled some water and they picked up a frog and they plopped it in the water, and it was boiling, really, really hot. So as you can imagine, the frog didn't hang about, it jumped out. Second time round, they wanted to see how it would react if the water began as cold but was heated gradually over time. So over hours, they slowly raised the heat, and the water eventually boiled with the frog inside of it. And the frog, of course, sadly died. And what this shows, what this experiment shows, is that it's very, very gradual. When we think we are comfortable, it can actually be a bad thing. Too much comfort can be a bad thing. We live within this comfort zone, which is one of the 3 zones that I'm going to be sharing with you. But if you look at it, if you look at adverts, we're always being sold comfort. We're always being sold this feeling of, comfort and luxury and staying safe. But it can be dangerous because we've all got this need for growth. One of our human needs is this need for new challenges, for fresh challenges. So here's the model. Let me move that. So the comfort zone. Comfort zone is there in the middle in this blue circle. And the comfort zone, when we live in the comfort zone, life is normal. Life is good. It's not challenging. So for example, if you've been working in a job for a long time, going to the office, doing your hours there, you're going to be working within the comfort zone because it's something that you're familiar with. It's something that doesn't challenge you, perhaps. So outside of the comfort zone, we've got the stretch zone. Now, the stretch zone is also referred to as the strength zone and also the learning zone, because this is the area. This is the zone where the magic happens. This is the zone where we experience, excitement, and we experience growth, and we experience challenges. So going back to my story very quickly, every day when I was doing this new challenge, whatever it was, I was leaning into that strength, that stretch zone. I was doing things that I wasn't comfortable with. But over time, as we commit to living in this stretch zone more and more, you'll find that your comfort zone grows like that. And then on the outside, we've got the panic zone. And you'll know you're in the panic zone because you'll be doing an activity and your body, your mind will be telling you that it's too much. You'll be experiencing anxiety, but not on a level in the stretch zone where it's comfortable. So I'll give you a real life example. Let's say you want to be a public speaker and you want to do your first, you want to do your first public speaking gig. Now the comfort zone may look like you speaking to your cat. So you stay at home and you've presented some material that you want to do your first speaking gig with, and you just present it to your cat, who sits there looking very confused, but you do that. So that would be in a comfort zone. Stretch zone may be doing your first public speaking gig in front of 10 people. So it's not comfortable, it's still new, it's still challenging, but you're really leaning into that stretch zone. Now, a panic zone may be doing your first public speaking gig in front of 4,000 people. So those 3 events, those 3 zones feel very, very different. And I think the key to knowing which zone you're in for any area of your life, not just confidence, is your intuition. Your gut will tell you which zone you're in. So comfort zone, okay, normal, getting out of bed, brushing teeth, doing the dishes, comfortable. Stretch zone, the heart's beating a bit faster. You've got that fire in your belly, but it's an excitement. It's not a nervousness. So they are the 3 zones. And I think it's important to understand those 3 zones, just so we can become aware of what zone we're living in. If we're experiencing the panic zone, we can pull back. And in the same way, if we're living in the comfort zone, we can push forward. We begin to challenge ourselves, but at the right level. And a final point I want to make about the 3 zones is, if we look at nature, nature is either growing or dying. Nature is either growing or dying. And it's just a very powerful reminder that if we're not moving forward in some sense, then like the frog, we're getting very, very comfortable that we may be boiling ourselves to death. So experiment with that. What would that not comfort zone, what would the stretch zone look like for you? What activities, what things would you be doing that you could say, yeah, okay, I'm here, I'm living in this zone? Okay, step 3. How are we doing for time? Good. So step 3 is to create your confident self today. So the first step, you've got this template. Once you've completed that, you're going to have this template. You're going to have this level of awareness of what perfect or what ideal looks like for you. Now, maybe you're the sort of person, and I think, to be fair, we all say statements like this. Once I feel confident, then I'm going to ask that hot girl out for a coffee. When I have enough money, I'm going to start my business. When I feel ready, I'm going to do X. The mind is very, very good at delaying. The mind's very, very good at keeping us in our comfort zone, because anything outside of that is a threat. And our nervous system is built in a way that it protects us from stepping outside of our comfort zone, which is why before my webinar, I was experiencing a little bit of nervousness. Not in the panic zone, because I've done it before, but it was, it's still not new enough that I'm completely comfortable yet. But this will come in time. But the point is, we can't delay. So by creating your confident self today, what I really mean is live that now. You've got this template, or you'll have this template. Go out and create that now. Set some challenges for yourself, or if it's about the mindset, if you have some awareness that, okay, if I was feeling confident, I'd be saying to myself, I can do this, then live that now. Several times throughout the day, set a reminder on your phone that says, I can do this, and say this in your head, and start to change the way that you think. So here are some other tips for creating your confident self today. So this one's good. So visualize at the start of each morning. So before you even get out of bed, let's say you've woken up, keep your eyes closed and just visualize, just imagine walking through your day, but see yourself at your most confident. So let's say you walk into the office, you've got some meetings. Okay, visualize yourself walking like you would if you were at your most confident, or presenting the meeting at your most confident. Because when we do this, we're giving ourselves permission to create that. We're giving ourselves permission to almost step into those shoes of this person, connecting with that person, because we can all do that. That's a really powerful tip. Even before you get out of bed, keeping your eyes closed, see yourself going through the day. Imagine the sound of your voice when you're speaking at your most confident, and just create the perfect day in your head, and then go out and create that. Another tip is to collect 3 pieces of evidence each night. So we're great storytellers. We ever noticed how when you talk about yourself, it's always about the past. So what do you do? Oh, well, I studied for a while and I worked here for a while and now I do this. We're all storytellers. We're always telling our story based on past events. And some of our stories really serve us and some of our stories don't. So it may be that we have a story about ourselves that, I'm not confident. I heard this recently. I had a call with a guy who said, I'm just not confident. And I sort of explained, this is, and with great respect and with great love, but I said, this is based on the past. This is a story based on the past. How are you feeling right now? And he said, oh, well, a little bit nervous about this coaching call, a little bit excited. And I said, well, that's you. All you are is in this moment. All you are is this present moment right now. We can't be the past. We can't be the stories we have about our past, because all we are is right here, in the same way that all I am in this moment is me. So we can challenge these stories. we can challenge these stories. So if our story is, I'm not confident, late at night, before going to bed, we can just write down 3 examples or 3 pieces of evidence that we were confident. So maybe we did a challenge, or we did something that scared us, or we made that phone call, or we just dressed a bit differently. And over time, you'll start to sort of change the play of the story in your head. And you start to realize that, okay, I'm not that story. I am who I am right now. And if I'm taking these actions, if I'm thinking this way, if I'm behaving this way, that's the true me. And the final tip, of course, I wouldn't share my story without having absolute faith in this strategy of challenges. So complete at least 1 challenging task each day, and have some fun with it. Make it like a bit of a mission. Imagine yourself as like a spy or a superhero going out and doing these different challenges. And yeah, just think about that zone. So pull together your knowledge of the zones now. So think about what would be a task, what would be a challenge where I'm really leaning into that zone. What's something I've been putting off for so long that I know that I can deep down, I know I can do it. And then create that. So that's step 3. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about for step 3. Oh, it's just one more thing. Often when we listen to our mind, we listen to our stories, they'll convince us that the way things are is, once I feel confident, then I'm going to take action. We see it as very black and white, very cause and effect. Once I have this confidence, I'll take action. When actually it's the other way around. It's really, once I take an action, I'm connecting with that confidence. I'm changing that story. I'm growing. Okay, step 4. That's quite scary, isn't it? Big pointy finger. Anyway, step 4 is, that's very intimidating, sorry. Focus on you. Now, what do I mean by focus on you? The relationship that you have with yourself determines the relationships you have with everybody in your life. We all set these limits for how much of love or money or growth that we allow into our life. So it's really about making sure that you are the consistent person in your life who's encouraging, who's loving, who's kindness. Because let's face it, there's going to be times where you have ideas, you have dreams, you have opinions where people are going to really not resonate. They're really going to go, no, that's wrong. But your truth, the way you see something, is personal to you. So it's really about honoring that. It's really about listening to that voice, listening to that opinion, that belief, and being your number one fan. Which is my first sort of point around step 4. I touched on this earlier on. I think we have this fear of appearing arrogant or selfish or self-centered, and quite rightly so, because we've all worked with people, we've all been to school with people who are overly confident. And I think we've all got this fear that if I'm really my true self, if I'm really connected with this confidence that lives inside of me, then other people are going to view me like that. And I think the point to make is we're never going to please everyone. We could be our most confident, outgoing, loving, authentic self, and people will still hate us. And that's just a reflection. That's their world. We can't control other people. That's just their point of view, and that's their business, and that's fine. So by being your number one fan, just realize that sometimes in life, you're the only person you have, and it's so important to have a relationship with yourself where you're encouraging. Treat yourself. Absolutely treat yourself. So as you go through these steps, as you start to take these challenges in your stride, reward yourself. Absolutely reward yourself. It's really important when we embark on a new way of behaving or a new way of thinking that we positively reinforce that. So perhaps after this, you're going to come up with a list of challenges that you're going to set yourself for the next couple of days. Reward yourself afterwards. And actually, even when you don't do challenges, when you're just being you, treat yourself. Make time for you. Something I started to do a while ago was, I call it a date. Just take myself out for lunch. Because we take other people on dates, don't we? Because we know that feels nice. It feels nice to be treated. So, Friday night for me is date night. I take Yvonne out for a dinner or cinema, and then the week after, she does that for me. And it feels great. It feels really nice when somebody is looking after you, when somebody is treating you, somebody's loving you. Why can't we be that person? I really think this is so important to have a healthy level of confidence. It's to have that relationship with yourself, where you treat yourself and you love yourself. And there may be people who go, oh, you take yourself out for dinner? Well, that's a bit odd. Their business. Their business. So treat yourself. Yeah, practice self-kindness. This one is huge. I love Buddhism. I love the Buddhist principles of forgiveness, compassion, and kindness. And I had to make a point in this section in step 4 to practice self-kindness. Do you ever catch those thoughts where you're just being horrible to yourself? When you make a mistake and you're an idiot. My last webinar, for those of you who are watching, didn't end how I'd like it to. There was technical problems, let's say, halfway through, and I went for a walk, and I was walking, and I was really, really mixed. I was really mixed. My mind was going, idiot, idiot. And I sort of stood there, and I was like, that's not me. That's not my voice. The mind is always going to be very, very critical. So it's important that we have a level of awareness that we can just go, okay, let's make that quieter. Let's make that quieter. I forgive myself. I'm human. I make mistakes. So self-kindness is so important. And the 2 most powerful words in any language are I am. When you say I am great, that feels a certain way. As I say that, I'm great. That feels a certain way. When I say I'm stupid, it's totally different. It feels so different. There's a great story that demonstrates this. So before I moved to Germany, I worked in a secondary school, and I had a group of students, 18 students of various ages, and I, going through my personal development journey, and I read up about this. I read that the words we have directly affect our body's physiology. So I wanted to test this. I read about this exercise. So one morning I asked the biggest kid in the room. He was year 11, so he wasn't the oldest, but he was the biggest. I think probably the biggest kid in the school as well, towering over me. I'm 5'7". I had to look up, and I said, "Come on, Adam." And he got to the front of the class. And I looked him in the eye, and I said, "Right, I want you to imagine you're a giant capital T, like this." So he made this shape, and his arms were like tree trunks, like big, strong kid, rugby player. And he's, "Am I doing it right, sir?" And I said, "Yeah, you're doing it right." And he stood there, and I said, "Right, I'm just gonna try and move your arm down." So I did. I budged like that. Wasn't gonna move. So I said, "Right, what I want you to do now is say out loud, 'I'm weak and unworthy.' But when you say it, I really want you to feel it. I want you to feel what effect these words have on your body." So he did this, and I said, "Say it out loud and really feel it, and do it 10 times. So there he was, massive guy. "I'm weak and unworthy. I'm weak and unworthy." And I was confirming it. I was going, "Yeah, you are. Yeah. It was lucky that another teacher didn't walk in at this point and found that I was doing this to his poor child. But anyway, he finished. He said this 10 times. And once again, his arms were still like this. And I put my hand gently on his shoulder, And I swear to God, it took no effort at all, and his arm fell down like that. And he was like, couldn't believe it. And the rest of the class sort of looked on like, who is this guy? This guy's got powers. And I explained that the words that we say directly affect our physiology. Now, I didn't want to leave poor Adam in this state. So I said, right, my friend, we're going to do this one more time. So again, capital T, arms like tree trunks. And I said, I want you to now say, I'm strong and worthy. Again, 10 times, out loud, and the instructions were exactly the same. I wanted to really feel it. As you say it, feel it. So he was there. I'm strong and worthy. I'm strong and worthy. And every time I was going, yeah, you are, absolutely. And by the end, he was almost shouting. You know, it became, very, very into it. And again, like that, and wouldn't budge. Put my hand, would not budge. So those two words, I am, whether we say them out loud, when we make a mistake, oh, I'm so stupid, whether we say it in our head, it's important that we understand that affects us. So that's step 4, to focus on you. I can see someone else has joined us. And I'm just going to unmute them. Mute them. Oh, Tom's here. Hi, Tom. Okay, so, there's a chat. You are welcome. I have to thank Tom. Tom is a good friend of mine who's, helped me to prepare for this webinar. Okay, so that's step 4. Focus on you. Make the relationship that you have with yourself the number 1 relationship. Okay, step 5. Be aware of what you consume. Now, consume, I don't mean consume in the sense of what we eat. Often when we think about consuming, consumption, we're talking the connotation, the idea is about what we put into our mouths. So I want to make the point that when I'm talking about consumption here, I'm talking about what we're putting in here, what you're putting inside your ears. Now, we all know people in life. I think there's many different types of people, but there's definitely 2 types of people. There's people who walk into a room and something goes up, the energy lifts, and they leave you. You may only spend a brief 2 minutes with this person, but they will leave you feeling amazing. They will leave you feeling energized and positive. They will leave you feeling confident. You know, if they say, oh, I like your shoes today, you know, their words are magic. Their words are magic. It's like liquid gold pouring into your ears, and you just feel really, really good. Even when they leave the room, you think, oh, okay, I'm feeling good. And then you have other types of people who are like zombies, who are they walk into a room and just something happens. I had a conversation. If I wasn't a coach, I'd love to study what that is. When somebody walks into a room and something either goes up or something goes down, I'd love to study that. But the second type of person, they can be extremely negative and even nasty to us. And this can really affect our confidence. This can really put us down. And I've certainly had friends sort of growing up like this who, for fun, would say things and they do things. But on some level, even if we laugh it off, on some level, that still affects us. So consumption, what we put into our ears, is really, really important. So for me, it's about environment. You know, are people raising you up or are people moving you down? And consumption as well is not just about people. Consumption could also be stuff like music or television. And what's funny about what we consume is we almost become what we consume. The ideas and the words that we hear on a regular basis become us. If you look at the situation in America, you know, Trump's using this, I mean, this isn't going to get political, don't worry. Trump's using this, let's make America great again. Do you notice that everyone who's a Trump supporter is using the exact phrase? Because they've consumed this. This is their reality. They've heard this so many times that this becomes the way they think. This becomes the way they live. This is their beliefs. And in the same way, let's say that John wakes up and every morning he goes straight to the news. He turns on Fox or BBC and he listens to the news. And news is generally bad, isn't it? It's generally fear-driven. It's generally sad, depressing. I think that's fair to say. Yes, there's some, rescued kitten from a tree story at the end to sort of lift us up, but generally it's pretty negative, right? That consumption affects us. That consumption, those ideas, those words, they really affect us. So let's say that's John's habit, and for an hour every single morning he goes straight to the TV and he consumes this. If John was to change that around, if he was to go onto YouTube and listen to 60 minutes of inspirational content, perhaps somebody like Tony Robbins or Les Brown, somebody who's inspiring, somebody who lifts people up, that's going to completely affect John. That's going to completely affect the way he thinks, and it will affect the way he talks as well, in the same way that a Trump supporter will regurgitate what they've heard. We are what we consume. So step 5, really to summarize, is be aware of what you're consuming, what it is, the people you're hanging around with, the types of content that you are consuming. Okay. And the question to ask is, is this serving me? Is this serving me? Such a simple question. And if you know me, you'll know that I love questions. Is this serving me? So on to step 6. And step 6 is another exercise. So we started with an exercise in step 1, and step 6 is also an exercise. And this is an exercise that was inspired from the first coach I ever worked with. So when I was working in the school, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And I sort of discovered coaching, and I discovered that, wow, you get to change people's lives, and that's your job. I thought it was the best thing ever. So naturally, I went to work with a coach, and I worked with a fabulous woman called Caroline Hart. And at the end of our first session, she encouraged me to write a letter to myself. So the exercise was slightly different, but we're going to go along the same sort of lines. So she asked me to write a letter to myself from the future, at 80 years old, to my current self, describing the life I created for myself, describing how I lived, giving any advice, giving any love. Really great exercise. And you put this away and you forget about it. And every now and again, you can go back and read it and reconnect with this feeling of excitement, this feeling of love or encouragement, whatever it is. So maybe that's definitely an exercise you can do. I think for step 6, to make it more relatable to confident, I'd suggest tweaking it ever so slightly. So absolutely write a letter from your most confident self. So maybe this is just about connecting with that feeling inside of you, that person inside of you who is pure love, who is pure confidence. Or maybe it's about visualizing into the future what this person may say. And just to give you some ideas, you could perhaps describe what life is like, or describe maybe the next steps that we can take. I think we've all got this incredible intuition, which we tend to shut out. We tend to numb this. But if we were just to sit quietly and just connect with this confident part of us, it can be really, really powerful. So maybe for you, it's about just being still, being outside in nature, pen and paper, away from computer screens, and just connecting with this part of us. We can also give advice. So coming from this connected, confident self, what advice would they give us? What advice would they give to you today? So you in the present moment. What would they say? And absolutely give love. Give love. So what words of love, encouragement would they give to you? So that is step 6. I think we're doing well for time. I said around 1 hour, so I'm very pleased. I just want to end, before I end, with an invitation and also a question. Ton got back to me with a question he had, which I'm certainly going to answer. And if anyone else has any questions, I can certainly answer those as well. Before we look at that, a loving reminder. What I've just shared with you is worthless. Completely worthless. Because it's just information. There's a big myth, there's a saying that information is power, which is rubbish. Information is not power. Information, when executed, information when applied, is power. So absolutely, the steps that I've shared are very, very powerful, and they will certainly help to connect you with this confidence in the same way that they've helped me. But it's really about this execution. You know, I'm very guilty of reading, buying a new book or signing up for an online training program and getting really, really excited that this is going to be the thing that's going to, give me what I want. It's going to give me this feeling. It's going to give me this more money, whatever it is. And it's not. It's always about the execution. It's always about acting on the information that we've been given. Because there's so much information out there, but it's really about transformation, taking that information and using it to transform, using it to grow. So I just wanted to give you this loving reminder that yes, that's all helpful, but it's really about putting it into action. So just before the question and answers, I want to end with an invitation. So like I said, information is great, and certain information can certainly help us. But I'd also like to make an invitation. You may be one of two people. You may have seen this and you're like, yep, information is cool. I'm going to go away and I'm going to, apply this. I'm going to put this into action, and that's great. Maybe you're another person who would appreciate some time, maybe going a bit deeper, slowing things down, looking at each of those 6 steps in more detail. So if you are, I'd love to invite you to connect for a coaching call via Skype. So as well as the replay, I'm going to send across a link to my schedule as well, where you can book a time for us if you wish. But like I say, the information is going to be enough when applied. But if you would appreciate some extra time, some extra support, I'd love to connect with you. Okay, so just to end, we're going to have a little bit of question and answers. So Ton had a really good question. So Ton said, rationally, I'm very confident. Emotionally, I have peaks and lows with confidence, as if the subconscious has its own way of going about it. It definitely influences my mood, mindset, and actions. How can I address confidence at that deep level? And I think it's a really good point that we can understand something, we can have these intellectual understanding of something, but still emotionally feel different. So going back to the question, how can I address confidence at that deep level, at that sort of unconscious level? I really think the most powerful way that I've experienced is hypnosis. It's hypnosis, because when we're in a hypnotic state, we're so much more suggestible than we are in our sort of current state. So there's a real myth around hypnosis. I use hypnosis. I've studied hypnosis as well. Really, really fascinating field to explore. There's a lot of myths around not being in control with hypnosis, but just be assured that you're completely awake, and there's so many amazing resources out there. You can have confidence hypnosis on YouTube, completely free. Another great one to check out is Paul McKenna, who's British. He's got some audiobooks where he calls it the Mind Programming CD. Really, really good. He's available on Audible. And yeah, this is something that you can listen to. You'll feel very, very relaxed. You'll still be awake. It'll almost be like you're daydreaming. This is how he explains it. But that's such a powerful way, and it's enjoyable because you're very relaxed, you're very present. That's a really powerful way of, really getting that deeper level of confidence on a sort of subconscious level. So we're doing really well for time. I'm impressed. I'd love to know if anyone has any questions now. You can unmute yourself and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Otherwise, we can leave it there for today. Oh, there's somebody in the chat. Ton, awesome. Great answer. I'm going to do hypnosis. I've never thought of it, though I know it. Yeah, honestly, hypnosis is really, really powerful. It's really, really powerful. And it works. It works. And honestly, if you go on YouTube, there's so many amazing resources that are for free. And if you want some help with that, message me and I can give you some good names. Thank you, Chris, for that message. Awesome. Yeah, we shall speak soon. So I'd love to wish you all there's another message. You're welcome. You're welcome. So I'd love to wish you all a wonderful day. I'm going to email across a couple of things to you. So I'm going to email across the replay of this, so you can go back in your own time, go through the steps. Also, a direct copy of the slide for the step 1 for the exercise, because I think that would be helpful. That would serve you. And also my schedule as well, if you'd like to connect with me for some more deeper time. Okay, so let's wrap this up for today. Thank you again for joining me. I've really enjoyed it. I hope that you have too. And let me know your insights. If you've had an aha moment, please share that with me. Send an email, send a message, and I'll speak to you very soon. Take care.